good evening and welcome to this edition of Referee Corner here on IslandStats.com. I'm joined by Diane Ferrara James, who is the head of referee for the Bahamas Football Association and one of the leading female officials in the Caribbean and CONCACAF region. First of all, good evening, Diane, and thank you very much for joining me here. I think just having a conversation with a woman that has such a decorated career, not just in football, but overall. I just wanted the opportunity to talk to you about your journey, and obviously born, raised, brought up in Guyana. Football obviously everyone knows Guyana through cricket, but how was football compared with cricket as you were growing up in Guyana?
I think football was always, let's say, a step behind because throughout the Caribbean, cricket is the number one sport. Even if you love football, cricket is always in your heart, like it's just there. But football in Guyana, quickly started to grow and develop, and that's where I actually joined the game.
Okay. Now, you also have a cricketing background as you were part of the Guyanese cricket team, as well as, I believe, you were the captain. You also played volleyball and for several international teams. But what drew you to the officiating side of football?
It all started with a former FIFA referee by the name of Jerry Laurie. He also introduced me to football, and I played football as a captain for Guyana for about 4 to 5 years. And then Laurie said to me, I think, Diane, you have the qualities to be a top official. And I said, well, referees are not always the best persons on the field. They're not much liked. But he said, I think you have the complete package to make a top referee. And so he encouraged me, and he started to give me the laws of the game to read, and also started to work with me on the field of play.
Can you remember the first time you officiated a match, and what was that like for you?
I think I probably may have done a few scrubbies, you're learning with the guys as they practice. But I remember in 1997, I did a game at home when FIFA was there. We had the Futura 2 course, and they had the national team. They put together a game with the national team, and they wanted the FIFA panel or the FIFA team to have a look at me to see what I can bring to the sport. And so they organized this team, and then I officiated. I did the first half of the game. And I think we had another official that they wanted them to look at. And since then, when after the game and, the afternoon during the course, they called me and they said to me that, Diane, you have the quality, you have the full package to be a top FIFA official. And they said that they would recommend me to the FIFA list. But remember, I just started in 1997. I just started like just about a few months. I think they were in Guyana on October, and I had started just about April or sometime around that. So I only had a few months of the game, knowing the game. And so a former FIFA instructor by the name of Dino Supliotis, when he saw me, he said, I am sure that you're going to reach the top. And so I told him at that time, I'm not ready to be a FIFA referee. I need 1 more year of training and preparing, and then I think I'll be ready. Because in my opinion, when you get selected or appointed to the FIFA list, it means that whatever appointment comes with that, you must be able to manage and handle the game. And I felt that at that time, I'm now learning the game. I'm only like 3 to 4 months into the game. And so I was not ready. But the following year, I went onto the list in 1998 as a second Caribbean referee to be on the FIFA list. And I only had less than 2 years experience as a referee.
When you look back at that time and you were given that first appointment as a FIFA official, what was that like? I mean, obviously your association, or you get a call to say You've been assigned to this particular match or this particular tournament. Can you recall what that first lot of moments was like?
Well, when you're training for something, you're a little nervous because you do a lot of games at home,
Mhm.
but when you have to go, from the time you leave your shores and you have to go into a strange land to officiate, that alone of itself brings a lot of butterflies. And so you quickly have to adapt and to your environment, adapt to the play, adapt to the people around you. And so I'm somebody I have a high level of concentration. So I would just, stay focused in the game, ensure that I'm ready for the game, prepare myself, try to imagine situations that can happen in the game that I need to solve, and how I can fix it. And so I went there, even though I was nervous. I don't think a lot of persons knew I was nervous. I was
Mm.
very concentrated on the game. And even being highly concentrated, you can also make mistakes because you're so focused on one thing that you're not, you're still not focused about everything that is happening around you. So I had to make that sort of adjustment.
Mm. Now, how much, since you started, how much has the game rules changed for you per se? I know the game is always changing because there's different styles of the
Yes.
game being played now, but for the rule side, because obviously those have changed. A rule has changed just about every year, and then some have been brought back.
Well, when I started, they had, you had to, as a referee, generally, you have to always be au fait with the rules, modification, any amendment to the rules. But since I've started to now, there have been so much changes. Sometimes it's difficult for us to keep up with everything that is happening because something can happen today. They can tell you that, okay, today, if you do this, it's a foul. And next 3 days, if you do the same thing, it's not a foul.
Right.
So as a referee, you always have to be adapting, always have to be changing. You must have an open mind because you have to adapt to all the changes and quickly you have to be able to demonstrate that level of adaptation. You have to really stay focused, and there's so many different changes that sometimes you always have to constantly reading the laws of the game because, like you said, every year we have either an amendment or a law change. So what you see last year, like for example, in the World Cup, in the Women's World Cup in France, when the goalkeeper moved, any movement by the goalkeeper off the line, any infringement of the goalkeeper off the line, and the ball misses the goal, VAR would retake. But now we don't have that. Now, if the goalkeeper infringes the law, and that infringement had nothing to do with the kicker missing, right? Then
Mhm.
the game continues. It's no offense unless the movement of the keeper had an impact on the kicker. So
Oh.
there's so much changes that you really and truly have to get accustomed to. Even though as an assessor, I must know the laws, all the modifications, because I'm assessing referees, so I have to see how they're doing, if they're applying it, if they understand the interpretation. So it's a lot. It's a lot to consume.
Well, it's interesting you say that because as an assessor, you see the game from the sideline,
Mhm.
and you would know after being a referee, you see the game a little different from the field.
Yes.
How much of in a conversation that you have after assessing someone do you kind of allow them to explain why they made a certain decision at a particular time where you probably looked at it from a different angle and saw something totally different?
Well, firstly, my job is always to support my team.
Mhm.
I will always be supportive of my team. So when I am assessing the referees, I do not tell, I ask.
Mm.
I ask the referees, at this moment, at this point in time in the game, what did you see? And then the referee would tell me what they saw. I would also ask their assistants because maybe they may have a different view.
Mhm.
So I would ask them as well. And then I say, did you had an opportunity to see it again? Maybe yes, maybe no. So if they have an opportunity to see it again, what is your decision? Is it the same decision you had like in the game, or would you change your decision and why?
Mhm.
So I like to, by doing that, it gives me an opportunity to hear the views of the referee. And I believe that we should always hear the views of the referee because they're the ones who are there. They're not the ones sitting behind a computer or a screen, and I'm not there to judge them, right? But at the end of the day, the decision must be correct based on the laws of the game, based on law, not on opinion,
Right. Right. True.
right? It must always be based on law and using certain considerations that will help you to make those decisions. So I am there to basically help the referees understand, well, when there's a foul committed, there are certain criterias, there are certain considerations that you must use in order to determine the the severity of the foul, because you already recognize it to be a foul. Now you have to determine the severity. Is it careless? Is it reckless? Is it excessive? So how do we determine that careless in terms of excessive and reckless? So when the referee can explain to me, then I understand, okay, the referee has a fair amount of understanding of what he or she is saying. So like that, that's how I normally assess. I'm not the person that tells. I like to ask, I think it's always good for us to ask. And my job as an assessor is to make the referee team feel as comfortable as possible. When they are comfortable and they know that this assessor is looking out for me, this assessor is here to protect me and guide me, I think they're going to give us their best performance.
Hmm. How much has the women's game grown over the years?
Oh, it's huge. Women has, if you look right now, you look at all the top teams, even in Europe, you look in England, you see all these the women are playing now is more prominent. Manchester United, Man City, Tottenham, all these big teams have women's team. And
Right.
so that creates an opportunity for other females to join. Because once you're good, people will always want you to join them. They will always want you to be part of the team. So women's football has really, really grown. And I think FIFA has pushed women's football. I could remember at one stage they were saying that football is feminine,
Mhm.
and so obviously we don't have the biggest crowds like men, but with football, with women's football, you will have, if I am playing, right? Then my mother would go and see me play, my sister, my cousins, so at the end of the day, I'm just one person. I'm bringing in like 5 to 10 persons. So if
Mhm.
each player brings in that capacity of persons, then we will have a good full stadium of people. And I think now people realize that you know this gender equality is very, very important. And so
I,
women football started to grow.
Yeah, I asked that to lead into just that because as a female official, obviously, females are looked at a little differently when it comes to officiating, especially if you're officiating a men's match. So how did you um, fear? And I'm not talking about fear and fear of making a mistake, but how do you think you fared in your first match that involved two men's teams and you being the female official?
Well, for me, it was different. In Guyana, I had never had no women's team. So I started with men,
Hmm.
and it was always men. So for me, going out and do the women's game, it became a little easier because in the women's game, it's not as fast,
Right.
right? It's not as fast. The tackles are not as hard. So by refereeing all my years in Guyana, it's always men's game. I get used to the type of football that they bring. So when I
Yeah.
go over to the female version, it's a little slower. So I'm never afraid because in the men's game you have to be afraid. The way how they behave, because some men have no respect for women generally.
Hmm.
So you have to be able to manage those personalities on the pitch. And once you can manage the personalities, I think your game would be much better.
Yeah. You're no stranger to Bermuda as you were here for the women's under 20
Yes.
tournament, and in charge of referees or the referee assessor. Um, your impression of Bermuda and the facilities that we have. What did you think? Have you?
Well, based on what I've seen, I think they're pushing for women's football. And
Mhm.
Bermuda has a very good team because I saw them play on a few occasions. The girls are pretty much skillful. And in order to bring more people into, once they see that they're getting that support that
Mhm.
they need, the support is there for them, and there's an opportunity for them to use football as a vehicle to improve their lives, not just football of itself, but their personal lives. They can get scholarships, they can go off to college and use football to help them to get a better education. They can also use football to as a job. to bring in income. And so I think the females there, I saw them, and the facilities were good, and the standard of play for Bermuda team was good. For me, I was impressed the first time I saw them.
Mm, mm. When you would have started out, and obviously you spoke about how you got into the international side of it all, but once you did put your name forward and agreed to be on the FIFA list, what were your aspirations?
Well, firstly, I'm somebody that's very passionate. When I do something, I'm very passionate about what I do. I spend a lot of time, I'm very dedicated, I'm very committed to whatever goal I set out to achieve, whether it's sports or academics. But for me, it was difficult at first because there are many obstacles you have to face as always, but you never let anything deter you. I always work hard to get to where I want to be. And it
Mhm.
must always be through hard work. I don't want favors from anyone. I always see myself as no one owes me anything. I want something, I have to go and get it, and I have to get it the best way. Not by doing anything unusual to get it, but by working hard to get where I want to be. So for
Mm,
me, it was like I work hard. I always work and work and work to get where I want to be.
yeah. And obviously, as a leader, how have you seen the female side of officiating grow over the years? Because we see more and more females even getting posts in like the Champions League and the Europeans, and even in our region as well. But how have you seen the female officiating side grow throughout the years?
Well, for me, I think that the whole thing comes about with gender equality. I think it has a lot to do with gender equality, where persons have to realize that women can also compete. Women can also referee. Football is football, whether you're a male or a female. The rules and the laws of the game does not change. So
Hmm.
once you can manage the game in terms of having the physical capacity, in terms of fitness, and you understand the laws of the game and you can manage at that level, they should be given the opportunity to know that they can manage the game. The opportunity should be there for them.
Yeah. And how has the game evolved in your eyes in Guyana over the years, in the men's leagues, at the international level as well?
Well, previously we had, Caribbean teams are many times at a disadvantage because we have a different culture.
Yes.
We have a different culture in the Caribbean. Sometimes the administration does not, they like football, but they don't
Hmm.
love football. And there's a big difference in liking the game. When you love something, you put everything into it. And so football in Guyana has developed a lot over the years. And I have seen we have had numerous changes of at the highest level. We have had a lot of changes in the department in terms of presidents. And so every time you have a change because of something or some conflict or something, football goes down. And then now the other person has to come and build it up.
Hmm.
So I think it's about having a good foundation for the players, have a strategy, you have a plan, and it has to be the whole football, not just refereeing or training. In order for the football to develop, it takes good administration. The refereeing aspect of it has to be good. The coaching aspect of it has to be good. So you just can't have the coaching aspect alone and then the other parts are not good. We need balance. In everything we do, we need balance. And I think that once they have the right strategies, the right resources, and they pump these resources into football, utilize now FIFA is giving more monies for football development, for women development as well. So that has helped a lot of the smaller countries to get football up because it's not easy for the smaller countries because population wise we may be maybe 300,000 in compare. Well, of course, Guyana is not 300,000, but in other Caribbean islands, they have like 300,000 in comparison to the United States, who have millions,
Right. Right.
right? So the pool is bigger in order to choose from. But in the end, based on what I've seen, football for Guyana has really developed. They have improved a lot. the new president, Mr. Wayne Ford, that they have, he has been doing a good job, I think, based on what I'm seeing. And I look at action. I look at the output, what I'm seeing. So the team has been doing pretty well, and also they need to do a lot more work as well in the referee department. But I think generally refereeing in the Caribbean too is they really need to improve refereeing in the Caribbean, in particularly women referees. We really in need of women referees. We don't have women referees. And I think that is a drive right now. At this moment, we're trying to do a drive for women referees to come forward. We need more women referees in the Caribbean because we really don't have any.
Yeah.
But football generally in Guyana has improved. And for me, this administration that is there right now, they have done a good job. So, and I'm saying that based on what I've seen, the
Right.
qualification wise, the amount of time and effort and monies they put into the training sessions that they have. They have a good training staff, the coaching staff. And so I think because of that, our football will develop.
Mm. Okay. What would you consider your biggest highlight of your refereeing career?
Well, I was an athlete before I became a referee. And something that I always wanted as an athlete, I wanted to be an Olympian. I wanted to go to the Olympics. And so my biggest career highlight would be when I officiated, firstly, the semifinals of the Olympic Games in 2004 in Athens, Greece,
Hmm.
between Brazil and Sweden. That was my big highlight. And then because the United States end up in the finals, I couldn't do the finals. So because I had a good performance, I was assigned as the fourth official.
Oh,
And my dream came true because the referee got injured during the game and I had to take over the game. So I can recall that because it's just a weird atmosphere for me. It was just a weird situation in 2004 when I was assigned as a fourth official for the finals. Because I remember I had my lunch, I went to bed, and I had a dream. I dreamt that I'm refereeing the finals of the Olympics. And I said to myself, this can't be possible because I know I'm only the fourth official.
right.
And during the game, when I saw the referee had some difficulty in the game. I started to blank the thought. I was like, no, this can't be happening. And I tell the referee, try to encourage her, you must continue. If you can, you really have to try hard. So when is my turn to enter the game? I did the extra time of the Olympic Games in
Okay.
2004.
Right.
When was my turn to enter the game? I was mentally ready because I dreamt it, I felt it. That moment was right there for me. So when I got into the game, I knew who had cards. I couldn't even find my card after the game. The number was written in my hand, and I remembered number 7 from Brazil was the only caution at the time. So I had her written at it right here at the edge of my thumb. So I
Hmm.
knew she was on a yellow card. So when I got into the game, it was like I was there from the beginning. For me, mentally, I was in the game. And so that was a very good moment for me. You walk out to any referee would tell you, you walk out and out of the stadium, out of the tunnel, onto the field, and the moment you see the spectators, you are amazed. It's like all the hair on your skin would stand up. And when you hear the FIFA anthem, it means a lot.
Right.
For me, it meant a lot for me listening to the FIFA anthem, knowing that I'm there and, to serve the game. So that was my biggest moment to date as a referee.
What would you say was in that particular game, because that's very significant, the fact that you started the extra time period. Was
Yeah.
it when you blew the whistle to start the extra time period or to end the match?
I think when I had, when I stepped onto the field and both coaches, I knew both coaches, Simeone's, that was coaching Brazil, and I
Yeah.
knew the other woman from United States, the other coach from United States. I knew both of them from attending many tournaments,
Right.
April Henrich. So I knew both coaches, and so when I stepped onto the field and I blew the whistle to restart the game, because to start the second half, the extra time of the game, it's like I was so excited. It's like I was just floating in the game. And
Right.
when I blew the final whistle, the final whistle of the game, like I'm not somebody that cries. I'm not emotional. I don't show emotions, even
Mhm.
though I have, of course, obviously have. But at that point in the game, I was I was standing there, but I wasn't there.
Right.
Like, I was like, I really did it. Like, it's really happened. I'm standing in the final. I just finished the final. I mean, I felt sad for my referee, because as a referee yourself, when you get such a big appointment, I would have wanted her to finish the game the whole game.
Hmm.
I would have really wanted her to finish the game. But, sometimes things happen in our lives that we really don't know. At any point, your body can tell you, I'm not taking you any further than this. So I was sad for her, even though I was excited for myself. I was more or less sad for her because I really and truly wanted her to finish that game.
Mm. And obviously now in the position that you hold of assessing, um, do you spend time talking with other officials about a journey they can have through officiating? Because a lot of people look at the footballers and think, okay, well, if I become a footballer, I could travel the world. But football could take you around the world no matter what position you actually hold. Is that correct?
Yes, and as a referee, I now as an assessor, I have a lot of the younger referees here. I would talk to them from time to time. I'm more like a mentor,
Hmm.
so and a coach at the same time. I would explain to them, there's so much avenues, there's so much opportunities to be a referee. You may not be able to get to the highest level as a player, but the possibilities are higher for you to get to be a referee and an opportunity to travel for free. You don't have to pay for your travels.
Right.
You have an opportunity to see the world, learn different cultures, have a lot of friends, all these things you can do. And, I think it's a very good career. And you're also gaining something from it as well on the financial side.
Definitely, definitely. Um, you have taken me on a journey throughout your career. But what would you say to encourage? Because you did mention that we're in the region, we are in need of female officials. So what would your message be to the female officials or females, not just in the region but in Bermuda as well, to encourage them to try it? They might like it. Just try it.
Yes, I would encourage them to try refereeing, because you might not be a player. That doesn't mean you can't be a referee.
Mhm.
Just give it a try and see if you like it. If you try it and you don't like it, you can always leave it. But to just not try it is like you're missing out on something big. Give yourself a chance to see what you're good at. Sometimes we don't give ourselves that chance, or that to see what we're good at. So I would encourage the young girls out there, especially maybe those that do track and field or any other sport, or even if they don't do a sport, to just give refereeing a try. In Bermuda, I know Cranston is doing an excellent job with the
Mhm.
academy, and you have one FIFA referee there at the moment,
Yeah.
Tishon. And so I am sure that those persons that I have seen, because I've had an opportunity to speak to some of them, and I can see that in the near future, you're going to have a team of FIFA referees. You will also have female FIFA referees. So I would encourage the other girls to come out and support the program, to support the academy, to support refereeing, come out and give it their best shot. In the end, you can have a trio from Bermuda traveling the world, and it's a great opportunity. It's a big career opportunity for you. And I think they would like it. I think they will like it. Once you get into that, once you get into it, you're going to like it.
Mhm.
So I would encourage them that they should come out and just, be passionate about something.
Right.
Something.
What about advice to players? Because a lot of players think they know the rules. Because I often talk to a lot of our officials in Bermuda as well, and one of the main things they say is, "I didn't realize how many rules there were in football, and I didn't realize that that was a law and this was a law." So, what would you say to actual footballers about learning the rules of the day in the match, in the game?
I think generally what should happen is like what I do here. Once per month, I do a laws of the game with all the coaches and players.
Hmm.
I invite them to once per month to a session on various topics on the laws of the game, because many of the players think they know the laws of the game, but they really don't. So when they come to the session and they can see videos, they can see and hear. And I even ask, like I said, I like to ask questions, right? So when I ask them, they will tell you. It's amazing to see. You will have national players and you show them a clip of an infringement and they cannot even tell you what it is. It's a foul, but they're not sure. They're not even sure it's a foul. How to restart the game, nothing at all. And they play football for 10, 15 years. So what I would advise is that maybe your instructor or somebody from the referees department can have sessions with these coaches. Maybe the clubs, like over here, the clubs would invite me to give a talk on the laws of the game, to amendments or modification to the laws, that I can go to the teams, the different teams, and I can teach them the laws of the game. Because teaching the players the laws of the game makes it a lot easier for you as a referee in the middle. They would understand your decision making. When you blow the whistle, they would know exactly why are you blowing the whistle. And they would also know what they are allowed to do and what they are not allowed to do. And they can even use the laws of the game to their advantage. So knowing the laws of the game as players is very, very important.
Yes. Well, I do want to thank you very much for your time, and want to wish you all the best for the rest of this year. Hopefully, we can come out of this pandemic and get football back up and running. I know because there's a lot of people that's missing it, especially in our region, that are unable to play. We have these vital World Cup matches in a month's time. Decisions have to be made where they're going to be played, and all that. But thank you very much for your time, and I do want to also thank you for helping our local officials with the Zoom calls that you've sat in on and given advice and details on, just learning the laws and helping them to understand them more practical. And we look forward to hopefully having you back on the island sometime soon to whether it be to facilitate a course or even just to oversee officials in an international match. Okay.
Yes, I mean that's great. I have a competition coming up next month. I have the men's Olympic qualifiers. I'm heading to Mexico next month for that. But it's always my pleasure to help. I'm here to serve the game. I'm here to help people understand the game. I'm here to help referees develop. Like I said initially, I would love to see CFU or Caribbean referees at a World Cup. I want to see them officiate at the World Cup. That would be the biggest thing for us, because it's not easy to compete as referees. In Europe and other parts of the world, the standard of football is much higher. And so our referees, we need to develop more. We need more referees and we need quality referees, not just referees, but quality referees. Once we can have quality referees, we're going to be on the stage right there competing with them at the best tournaments. And I think our referees, we have it, but we need to go and find them and bring them out, train them, and put them out in the world so the world can see them. That Caribbean referees can also officiate at the highest level. And so for me, as an assessor and an instructor, part of what I do is to help people to develop. And until I cannot do it anymore, I will continue to do just that.
All right. Well, I want to thank you again very much for your time, and I look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Same to you.
Bye-bye.